Welcome to Bits and Bytes. This is Pascal, and you're watching Instant Replay Episode 3. Welcome back to Instant Replay, where forgotten or overlooked titles from the past come to be remembered again. Now in this episode, we would like to take you back over 20 years to a game called Faxanadu, which was originally developed by Hudson Soft and released in 1987 in Japan, and making an international transition during the next couple of years. The game is an offshoot of a game called Xanadu, which was the second game in Falcom's Dragon Slayer series. As we watch the opening scene, which in short will reveal some of the game's plot, a quick summary. In essence, elves and dwarves live together in relative harmony in a place called the World Tree. However, as the main character of the game returns back to his home city, which is in shambles and fairly deserted, he comes to find out some things have changed in his absence. Namely, a meteorite has crashed to Earth, out of which a being called the Evil One appeared. The Evil One has basically turned all the dwarves of the world into monsters against their will, and has turned them on the elves. As the hero of the game uncovers some of this opening story, he's charged with restoring the peace between the two races and saving the world, of course. Now, this was an action RPG, and it is, for me personally, one of the very first games I ever played on my NES back in the day. The very first order of business that your character is sent on, easily enough, is to go and visit the king, who will outfit you for the journey ahead and also fill you in a little bit on the story at hand. To boil it all down on what the objective of the game is, basically you are tasked with traversing the three separate worlds that make up the World Tree. Your task is to obtain a magical sword from the Dwarf King, which is the only weapon powerful enough to slay the Evil One. Which of course therefore then will save all elves and dwarves alike, and they all lived happily ever after. The king gifts you with 1,500 gold for your journey, which you then go out to spend. Now the game is an action RPG, and as you can already start to see, there is a lot of action side scrolling. There are many RPG elements woven into the game. For example, the fact that you actually must buy your gear, items, magic spells, armor, weapons, just about everything. As an example, here I am equipping the first weapon available to you in the game, a hand dagger, and also a very basic magic spell, which then can be used to combat the dwarves. These are dwarves, although they look nothing like the dwarves that we would imagine to be able to see. They've been twisted by the Evil One into undwarf-like shapes, let's say. As you make your way through town and outfit yourself properly for the journey, eventually you get to the point where you will be able to leave town and enter the world at large for the first leg of your journey. One of the things that fascinated me about this game when I was younger, for some strange reason is still a funny draw to me, is the fact that even though it is a side scroller, it only ever scrolls to the edge of the screen. When you reach the edge of the screen, as you can see, the entire screen shifts, and so the game is actually split up into squares, or the game map, I should say, is split up into squares of equal size. This becomes very useful and also very important much later in the game. This very early stage that you're seeing here is fairly linear. There aren't too many branching paths or optional doors or places that you can go. However, later in the game and in some of the game's dungeons, it almost becomes essential if you want to be successful to make your own maps, and so the screen by screen approach is very helpful. Other things to be able to do that kind of related to an RPG is that you come across towns where you can gather gossip and information in the pub. And one of the first things to always do upon entering a new town is to get a mantra from the guru, as seen here. The mantra is basically your password. The game does not have a save function, but your password does restore you to where you... One of the most memorable things about this game is its soundtrack composed by Jun Chikuma. Some of these 8-bit songs really have a tendency to stick into your memory, and I find myself humming or whistling them at work sometimes even. We'll take a few seconds to listen to some of them. Now the game is filled with quite a bit of symbolism, or at least the Japanese original release was. For example, the church scenes in the original Japanese release had Christian symbolism in it, such as the cross and the crucifixion. Those were removed for the international release of the game. As you'll start to notice in this first dungeon, there is a wide variety of enemy designs, much more than you would normally expect to see from a game featuring dwarves as the main enemy. These enemies are very uncharacteristic of what we imagine dwarves to be. The enemies have a lot of elements incorporated into them from Norse and Japanese mythology. Now, at the end of a dungeon, there's typically some sort of boss. The bosses do usually have a strategy that makes them easy to defeat, but are otherwise quite difficult adversaries. When one dies, instead of having to start all over, you are restored to the last guru that you visited on your journey. As you can see, all experience and gold in this case have been wiped back down to 0 as one of the effects of perishing. Now that changes later in the game. The more experience you amass will give you new titles that a guru will bestow upon you. Having a higher title actually lets you restart after dying with a higher and higher amount of gold and experience still awarded to you. In a way, it is the game's save system. Now, looking forward to the rest of the game, you'll be picking up and finding many items like keys, rings, health potions, which sometimes appear from enemies when killed, or invincibility ointments. A lot of those RPG-esque elements. In fact, you can even purchase, or in some cases find, a pair of wing boots which let you take to the skies and explore the game in a whole new way. As your journey continues, you'll also soon be faced with the first of several quests to complete. In this case, the quest is to restore a dried fountain to working condition so that you can access the ladder behind it that leads you to the next area. Some of these quests are a little bit lengthy and add a lot of replayability to the game. So let's take a look at the second area of the game, a little sneak preview. When you enter the mist-shrouded second area of the World Tree, and what quests and enemies await you in that part of the game. And that wraps it up for this edition of Instant Replay. Come back and check out our next episode, when we have a special treat for you. Our very own editor-in-chief, Martin Watts, is digging out his old SNES console and will be checking out a big-time throwback to the 90s, TMNT4, Turtles in Time. Head over to bnbgaming.com to let us know your thoughts on this episode or to request a particular game for a future edition of Instant Replay. You can also like us on Facebook /Bits and Bytes Gaming and follow us on Twitter for the latest updates. In the meantime, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Goodbye.